am better than ever. And I know right now that I'm going somewhere and I need some cheddar. Oh, baby, better
Hey
not
everyone,
go.
it's Andre Luck here with my next episode of the Sports Sales Show, where today I'm going to be talking about AI for sales reps and sales leaders. And so my daughter Bella was in here a little bit as I was prepping, and she's like, "What are you talking about today?" And I told her, she's like, "Isn't that what you talk about every time?" And I was like, "Not necessarily, but yeah." And I'll talk more about that later. But that's what's top of mind for every sports sales leader I talk to, whether they're deep in it or they're just in the discovery stage. So I'm going to talk through top ROI use cases for sales reps, for sales leaders, and really kick off a series that I'm going to be going through over the next couple of episodes here. We'll see how long we go with, actual diving deep into specific use cases. So for today, I'll hit it at a high level, top 3 or 4 use cases for sales reps, top 5 use cases for sales leaders, and kind of set the stage for what the next couple months of episodes will look like here for the Sports Sales Show. So going back to last week. So last week I did an episode around the ROI around AI. So if you're trying to make that case internally, maybe you're trying to get more investment or get more dedicated resources from like your IT and engineering team to focus on how we can help from how they can help from the sales perspective and build out more resources to AI, whether it's Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever it may be for sales use cases. Like, how do you make that case? So a lot of people can easily go to and say, hey, I can either cut down and save costs by having less reps, but focused on these initiatives or using AI to help with it, or just saving time because we're seeing reps save 10 plus hours a week just by using AI. Save time savings is great, but that's not always going to get pushed through by with the finance team or whoever you need to get approval from, unless you can also tell that story of like, and with that time savings, here's how we're going to generate more revenue. And so touched on that and talked about like the different ways you could sell that story internally on how to drive revenue and not just save time. So that's really the focus. And then for reps, driving more revenue, closing more deals, making more sales, and then leaders, they're the ones that really gonna have to push this change. So it can't just be, all right, the IT team comes in, or we had someone come and do an hour kind of workshop on how to use AI. Like, they have to get in it, they have to be hands-on. The sales leader of the future, the CRO of the future, like, they're gonna be in these tools, they're gonna know how to use them, and they're gonna be the ones who are gonna have to push this through and make sure that there's reinforcement, just like any sales methodology, any sales practice that we've had historically within sales. Like, we really are the ones who are like the teams that have had success and the sales teams that have had success with and have this culture. They've really bought into like their process, their systems, their methodology, and they're the ones leading it. And it's no different here. Although it is a little more technical, it's very easy for us to get up to speed and learn this. And over the next couple episodes, I'll talk about that. And like little things, like for me, like building an agent seemed intimidating, and then actually went through doing that. I'm like, oh, like that's all an agent is. Like, and that took me a couple of minutes to do, and they're just getting easier and easier to do this. And there's different tools that are coming with pre-built agents and assistants. So I think it's just understanding that and what the use cases are, and really like showing for us when we do our workshops, like the art of possible, like what could be possible. And then if there's something that you're thinking, you could probably create it within AI and help you just get more efficient and close more deals and generate more revenue. But the thing that I've learned when building agents or doing prompting is like the context, and the more information you give it, the better. So if you can, from a context standpoint, like really get specific on what it is you do, what it is you're looking to accomplish, like what do you need this prompt or this agent to do. And one thing that's helped me is like actually having AI ask me questions so I can get to that. Like, I have a lot of thoughts in my head and I think I know kind of where I want to go. So I kind of brainstorm back and forth, and a little prompt like, hey, give me 10 questions to help me build out this agent that I'm looking to create, and give the instructions to it. It'll ask me like really in-depth questions to challenge my thought process, and then come with an output that I could program that into the agent. Like, little things like that are tips that I'm seeing, and just like how much context you can give it, so you can move away from just manual prompts to now building out agents. And so we'll talk through that. But from a sales perspective, so the 3 use cases, and I've shared this before, one around prospecting and research. Another one's around just closing more deals and identifying opportunities for account growth, and generating more revenue from your current clients. And then the third is just onboarding and skill development. So for prospecting, we're seeing reps book 10% more meetings in the first month just by using different AI tools. So simple things. And I did a prompt here before this, or used an agent before this, around my in-laws roofing company. and just like the insights they could give me on what the roofing company is. I have a pretty good insight just from knowing them, but let's say that I was prospecting them and targeting them. I would have been very generic with like, hey, here's what we're seeing with roofing companies, or I know that, blue collar industries, XYZ, which is probably better than a lot of sales reps are out there doing, but I can get really specific with a good prompt or using an agent that's pre-programmed to do this deep research, and within 3 to 5 minutes have like clear talking points and things that are relevant to their business that I could call out. So now more of those emails are getting responded to, more of them getting read, and that's helping people book more meetings because they're more relevant and more timely versus just a generic message, generic prompt, or no research, and you're just cold, just going out to random leads. The other thing that AI really helps from a prospecting standpoint is finding the right type of lookalike leads. And so, it's a really strong marketing best practice. Like, hey, here's our current customers with our ad spend, using these different ad tools to find other customers like them that we can market to. Same within sales. So instead of just pulling like, hey, here's the top, 20 businesses in this industry from a book a list, or let's just pull, I don't know, roofing real estate companies because we think that would be a good target for us. Actually, hey, here are some of our customers, or even plugging in AI into your CRM system. But let's say you don't have that capability yet. Here are some of our customers. Hey, and it'll ask like, what specific qualities do you want to pull out of these? Here's kind of a rundown, like similarities of like your customers that you currently have. What's most important to you? Is it industry? Is it employee size? Is it other demographic data that maybe I'm not talking through? And then it can give you a list of like, hey, here are 15 other companies like them, and rank them and score them based on that, and like what their fit score is for lookalike. So, now you're going after better leads with the right signals and the right characteristics versus just randomly calling businesses. And when you do reach out to them, the messaging is way more relevant. So we'll do a deep dive into that as well from a prospecting standpoint. So then moving into the sales process, you got the meeting booked, you've maybe had back and forth conversations, where we're seeing in the sales process, reps are closing 20% more deals in the first 90 days by using AI. Account growth strategy. So you have this current client and you're trying to map out and multi-thread and understand like, who are all the stakeholders that maybe aren't involved that I could get involved to help grow this account or find other sales opportunities. AI could help you do that. Call out potential deal risks. Hey, I've had 3 meetings, and like, here are my notes from the meetings. Here's what they're looking at. Here are some objections that have come up. What are some other objections that may come up, or what are some internal politics that I'm not thinking about? Like, maybe it's like, hey, you haven't talked to the CEO yet. They could come in last minute and close and shut down the deal. Like, maybe we should loop them in earlier. Like, little insights like that are great when you're going through the sales process that we just didn't have. And we just had to kind of go off our gut feel and maybe like brainstorm with our boss and manager if they had the time to really go and do a deep dive into it. But now you have an assistant that can work with you to help you do that in real time. And now you got real insights that you can work off of. One that's been real big for us on the sports team side is building implementation plans and telling ROI stories. And we've used manual prompts for that, but now there's agents and assistants built where it can already ask a couple questions and like, hey, for 81 baseball games, home games, here's how, based on what you told me the company is looking to do, here's how we can map out their usage. Or here's how we can show them they can get a 3 to 4x ROI on their spend based on what the industry standards are, what their average deal size is, and how they plan to use the tickets and what their conversion rates are. We could do the math ourselves, and there's ROI calculators have been around for a long time, so you could use it in like an Excel spreadsheet, but it really walks through like, hey, when you're telling the story, like, here's why we got to this ROI. So when you meet with the CFO or you meet with your champion, you can arm them with insights, not just data and numbers and math, but actually tell them how we got and calculated that ROI. So that's a big one. And then just role playing, like going back and forth. Like I share in my workshops, like when I walk my dogs around the neighborhood, a lot of times I'll do just role play sessions just to keep me sharp through the sales process, and like doing phone calls to try and book a meeting and like, hey, tell me no 3 times in a row before you go ahead and book the meeting, or just shut me down so I can get used to pivoting to something else based on an objection. So just role playing before a meeting and kind of working out some of the kinks so that when you go live in a meeting, whether it's virtual or in person, you've already kind of thought through some scenarios, you've gone back and forth. So tons of use cases, and we'll show that when we get to that episode within the series here. And then the other part for sales reps is just onboarding and skill development. So with that, we're seeing reps increase their ramp time, so how quickly they can get up to speed and start booking meetings, start having pipeline in their, or deals in their pipeline and closing deals much faster. So within a month or 2 months, you can have a rep that's brand new who's performing like they've been around for, a couple of years, even some of the more veteran people, because you can program, upload your training docs. They can build out their own quizzes. You're not waiting on the manager to have time and take 2-3 weeks off the floor to work with his team. Like, they obviously need to be heavily involved starting out, but now they can, now reps can do their own kind of onboarding and coaching. Or let's say you're not a brand new rep, but there's something you really want to focus on, or you got your marching orders from your boss of like, hey, here's something you need to work on over the next quarter here or over the next year. You could build out, hey, here's what I need to focus on. I do a really good job closing B2C, but really struggle B2B, or my average deal size isn't as high as the rest of my peers. Help me build out an 8 to 12 week training program that can help me with this specific skill set. Imagine, like, as a manager, if your rep comes to you like, hey, I've already built out a training program and I'm already working on this on the side. Like, what else do you want to see out of this, or what additions do you want to make? And like, now, instead of you having to push them and try and get them to invest in their own career, like, they could take, and I tell everyone this, I'm like, there's no excuse to develop yourself now. You don't need to wait for your boss. You don't need to wait for your organization. Like, it is all here, at your fingertips to just learn whatever it is that you need to learn. So creating games, quizzes, different training programs to help you with a certain skill that you want to focus on. Like, for reps, like, those are the 3 ways that we're seeing really start to crush it and really take the next steps as sales reps using AI. And the good thing for a lot of sales reps out there, because I know some of them watch this, is like, very few people are starting to use those use cases. Like, we do it in workshops with a few teams, and even from those few teams we work with, there's maybe like only a few people that really invest in it. But if you could really learn this and like get really skilled and well versed in this, like, the upside for your long term career growth is significant, because you're going to be light years ahead of people once they do adopt this. But even the short term, you can start to separate yourself from the team and start to see yourself generating more revenue, booking more meetings, closing more deals that others aren't, because they're still going through a very manual process or don't have very deep insights that they could use to really help call themselves out. So, or set themselves apart and cut through the noise. So that's for reps. And now we started working more with sales leaders on use cases. We start to identify and uncover, like, hey, what are ways that sales leaders could use it? And I actually did a session about this recently, both Jake and I did, around AI use cases for sales. So top use cases for sales. I think really why it's important now is a lot of leaders don't have the time to like spend that they need coaching. And I kind of touched on this through the sales rep portion, but they're in meetings, they're in one-on-ones all the time, and a lot of times it's not coaching, it's putting out fires, and you're very reactive and answering the same questions over and over. So your coaching becomes kind of like in the moment, just like what you're feeling, versus like a consistent coaching process. So, if a rep goes to different managers within a team, they may get different answers on the same scenario. And so you want to make that more consistent. Or, if you're trying to forecast like what's in someone's pipeline, you kind of just have to go off their gut feel. But reps get happy ears, and reps don't want to come to a pipeline meeting and say that I don't have deals or I don't have something that's closing. So you take their word for it. But like, how could we better understand like what is a real deal versus not? And those are some use cases that we could talk through. But that we'll talk through in the future episodes. But the first one that I think is most important is going back to that onboarding. It could really get all the thoughts out of your head of like, hey, what do we want someone to, in 90 days, what do we want to make sure that they focus on? What do we want to make sure that they accomplish in that time frame? And almost build out like a 30, 60, 90-day checklist. Like, hey, here are the 5 things we need to make sure they do in 30 days. You give it to them on the front end. And in the session I was doing last week, I even said this helps you with your hiring profile. Like, if I know that these things need to get done in the first 30, 60, 90 days, I'm looking for someone and asking questions differently in my interview process versus like, hey, let's take a shot and let's see if they can do it. And then at 90 days, we'll just see where they're at. Like, you have a very structured process now that if you took time, you could probably map this out manually. And some have done this, but using AI to help you with that and to kind of be that thinking partner with you and brainstorming with you, that's a big use case. Building out talk tracks, building out your ideal customer profile so that a new hire, when they come on board, like, they have all this ready to go versus just having to kind of figure it out. Great tool for leaders to use. We have so many meetings as leaders and one-on-one meetings with our staff. And hopefully we're documenting that. Now there's different tools that could do it where you don't have to manually take notes, but I would encourage everyone now to start taking notes, or in some way getting that notated into some sort of doc, And after every meeting, you just put that doc into AI and be like, hey, here's my last meeting with Tommy. Here's what we talked about, any context that it needs, and help me prepare. We'll call out things that we need to make sure we work on over the next month or couple weeks between now and when we meet again. And then also give me an agenda for our next meeting. So now you come out of that meeting with insights and also next steps. And like, it just helps you just have more consistent, repeatable, and it's taking data from all the meetings, not just what's like most recent, and that recency bias that creeps into our heads around, what is running one-on-ones look like and how's this rep performing, and it can call this out for you because it has all the context from your document and can summarize that very quickly and then set the best next steps for you and coach you on that. Professional development plans, that's another big use case. A lot of times we just don't do them unless someone's on a performance improvement plan, but this is different. Like, you really want to work on a certain skill or a certain area that someone could get better. So building out like a personal development plan, maybe like the one I talked about earlier for the rep, where they want to focus on closing more B2B deals, or their average deal size isn't high enough. So like over the next 3 months, we're going to focus on this one skill. And instead of just vague kind of like, hey, here's what I did back in my day, or here's some things you could try, like a really detailed plan that they built, like you could build this too as a leader. Over the next 12 weeks, here are the things we want to focus on and the checkpoints we're going to have. And like in between each week, here's the things that you need to accomplish, and like how we'll measure success. Way more thorough, way more precise on what we could be focused on versus just a vague plan. And it allows you to better reinforce that training and that development within that personal development plan. Another great use case is kind of duplicating yourself, what we call kind of like a leader GPT, like building your own agent or GPT about yourself. So taking all of your thoughts, all of your knowledge, all of your insights, and putting that into a prompt or into a GPT, training it on your sales process, your style. This helps for new managers who are coming on to know what it's like and how we operate as leaders. Because a lot of times when you're a new manager, you're not really trained, you're not really prepped for it. It's just maybe you've done some like um, leadership development programs, things like that. I know a lot of teams have those kind of pod programs, and that's a great experience because you're getting leadership responsibilities. But when you get in the role, like, no, it's a lot of times the top salesperson are like, hey, like, we think you could be a good leader, go get it, versus actually giving them the training and the insights to be a strong sales manager, especially a first time manager. So that's something that you could build out, building a playbook for consistency across your managers. And this is something that if you built an agent or have prompts, like, you could give to your reps, like, hey, this is built on me. This is like, if you were to ask me questions, like, these are the answers I would probably give. Use this first, and if you still can't figure it out, then come to me. Saves you time, helps them, kind of self-serve to some extent, but then also make sure that they're um, getting the insights and consistent answers and messages that they need versus just kind of how you feel in the moment. The last one, going back to forecasting, just understanding what's a real deal and what's not. So I joked, a lot of my staff, when I managed a team in Houston with the Astros, they'd always talk about had irons in the fire. Like, we do these pipeline reviews, like, yeah, we got some irons in the fire, which I don't know how hot those irons were, or if there were, how many of those irons there actually were. But now you could build out a more structured forecasting of like, hey, when a deal closes, this is what we know is always consistent. When you say that there's a deal but it doesn't come through, here are some of the signals that we see. So now you have like a checklist of like, all right, did these 4 or 5 things happen? If not, I'm not forecasting that as a deal yet. Or if these are the things we need to get to because we know this helps lead to more deals closed, then you make sure the sales rep does that throughout the sales process. So helps identify risk earlier, because a lot of times reps will come to managers with, hey, they told me no, what can I do to save this deal? And so we tell them, hey, throw in this, or tell them we have a payment plan, or tell them we got the ticket exchange program. At that point, it's too late. Like, there are a lot of things internally through discovery and follow-up meetings that we weren't a part of, that it's almost too late to save. But now we can identify some of those risks earlier, because either they're saying things that like, hey, going into our agent here, this shows us like, here are the risks and here are the challenges that come with a deal like this, or they haven't done these things, so we don't think this is an actual deal yet. And so now the rep needs to go do more work to get it deeper in the process. So Opportunities for sales reps, opportunities for sales leaders. We're going to dive deep into that over the next couple weeks, months of episodes, and do a deep dive on each of those, and um, really show different use cases for it and everything like that. All right, so every episode I want to do shout outs, have two, one sports related, one just randomly related. So sports related, the Tennessee Titans, want to give them a shout out, their current stadium sales team. I've worked with them multiple times now, and going through the process of working them again, but continuing to challenge themselves. They brought in different voices over the years, and one of the things that really stood out to them was like, hey, not everyone's on board with AI from their leadership team, but they know that's something that they need to do. And like, hey, we see you talking a lot about it, and this is something we want to dive into. Even if it's not fully figured out yet, we know this is going to be a skill we're going to need long term in our career. So just kudos to them challenging themselves to push themselves out the box. They could continue to do the same, sales training, B2B training, but we're putting a different spin on it this time for the reps, for the leaders. So excited for that because I get a lot of learnings out of it too, because we're all kind of figuring this out together. But also to get to work with them and show them a path that I feel really strongly about. Is like, this is where sales is going. And, the more we can kind of tell that story and the more we can get some wins and use cases, we can start to share that with others. And I think more are going to get on board. We're in the early stages though, which is great. But get excited to get to work with them. The shout out, just non-sports related, J. Cole, I'm a big J. Cole fan. So his new album came out, The Fall Off. Amazing. And this is what he says is his last album. And so put a lot of thought into the storytelling and just the way he's built this out. And if this is his last body of work, excited for that because I think it's amazing. So definitely want to give him a shout out for the album that he just recently dropped. And something that stood out to me. So I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, my daughter Bella was in here like, hey, what are you going to talk about? Don't you talk about this every episode? I said no. She's like, well, what was your last episode about? And I was like, well, it was about that. She's like, see. But what stood out to me, she's like, so, all right, when everyone figures out AI and starts using this, then what are you going to talk about? I was like, well, I never really thought about it. I said, well, I think, teaching people to build agents and, automations, things like that. She's like, so building robots. And I was like, well, not really robots, but I guess. She's like, well, robots are dumb. And I thought she meant more dumb, like, I just don't like them. She's like, no, no, no. Like, they're not smart. Like, you could teach it to be smart, but they only know what people teach it and what they can find on the internet and like site stuff. So I, whatever she's learning with her other students in school and what her teachers are telling her is awesome. So we're just kind of going back and forth a little bit. She's like, what you should focus on, which I was like, great, more advice, which was good. She's like, what you should focus on is like how people can use robots to help them solve like crazy problems or like things that they didn't know how to do so they can create new stuff or like teach them like how to like go to the moon or something. And I was just like impressed just listening to her and the way she was thinking about it and the way she's looking at it, because I'm real big for like this next generation, really understanding and using AI. And so they're already kind of understanding the concept and the process. And I do think she's right, shockingly, that, how do we use AI to help us solve problems that we wouldn't be able to and everything like that. So, that just stood out to me because that probably could be the next evolution of like where we take this. And once people have fully adopted and started to use AI, yeah, how do we teach people to use it the right way to help them solve problems and create new content and new things that maybe they weren't thinking of before? So, that was fun conversation, and I'll continue to lean on her to be my AI advisor and give me more advice as we go. So, in closing, yeah, I'm going to talk a lot over the next couple months here around use cases for sales reps, sales leaders. Going to use a tool that we have called Journey AI to kind of do some walkthroughs and maybe other tools as well based on like what the topic is for that day. Really walk through and show like, hey, when you have it pre-programmed, here's what you can get versus if you did this manually. And I'll kind of give context of like, here's what it looked like even 3 years ago, but really going back to when I was starting of like not having much insights and just kind of going off gut feel, but taking that gut feel and user experience to help build something that's really special and can help you drive more revenue. So we'll talk through that. But if this stood out to you and you liked it, go ahead and hit like. Share this with someone in your network if you think this is something that would be very valuable to them or relevant, or maybe they don't subscribe already. And then lastly, yeah, subscribe if you want more content, and especially as I go through this series over the next couple of episodes, the next couple months, so you get updated when new content comes out. Typically every Monday or Tuesday, a new video will drop. So subscribe so you make sure you get that. But as I tell my daughters every morning when I drop them off for school, go be awesome today. And we'll be back next week with another video. Thanks.
That's nothing. I'ma be doing this and I'm gonna be head hunting. Oh, baby, don't know. Oh, baby, don't go. Oh, baby, don't know. Oh, baby, don't go.